PopCap just released a beta for containing 200 plus levels, 66 plants, which 55 of them are fusions. Yup, fusions, meaning you can combine two different plants to create a bigger and better plant to fend off the monstrous looking zombies they added. Like for example, this magma zombie or this ginormous snail zombie who leaves its goo all over the map. But this is just a simple explanation of the things involved. Oh, and about 90% of people who watch my videos aren't actually subscribed. So if you end up enjoying the video, consider subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind later. But let's see if I was able to conquer every single level and what crazy fusions I discovered along the way. The game starts off with Dave panicked because a meteor just fell right by his house. And then comes in Dr. Zomboss spewing big words that I don't even know the meaning of. But he also mentions that the meteorite has cosmic power that he's going to use to conquer humanity with, right after commanding his zombies to take down our plants. So to fend them off, we first plant our sunflower like normal, and then also 2 pea shooters. But right after is where the magic happens, where Dave asks us to combine the pea shooters and they turn into a repeater. And it seems that this is possible due to the meteorite's cosmic power. And as I'm about to plant a second sunflower, I see that you can turn the normal sunflowers into twin sunflowers if you combine them. And with these measly defenses, we're able to take down the first level of the game, helping us unlock 3 more plants, with the first one being walnut, just a normal plant, the second one being the tall nut. This is actually a fusion in this, and it takes 2 walnuts to make 1 tall nut. The third plant was a solar pea, which is the fusion between a pea shooter and a sunflower, with the ability to produce sun on every 7th shot. The second level starts off with the game showing us how to plant the walnut to defend against the imp, but we also need offense, so the game tells us to combine our pea shooter with the sunflower to make the solar pea. And it's pretty cool how you can take a plant from anywhere on the map and combine it with another one if compatible. But this cool feature comes with a pretty big trade-off, and that's the removal of the shovel from the game. But we'll see if that affects us as we go level by level. So with that aside, back to the cool fusions. And the solar pea is pretty good because it produces you sun and it does damage, so I was planting more of them as time went on, eventually getting a full column of them in the very back. And using those guys as our main defense, we beat level 2, unlocking the potato mine and 2 of its fusion, with the first one being the Devastator, which is basically the primal potato mine from PvZ2. And the second fusion was the Golden Yukon, which is a combination of a sunflower and a potato mine. And this fusion actually has a pretty cool effect, and that's the fact that when you fuse them, you don't have to wait any time for the potato mine to come up from the ground, making it very handy in dire situations. Most of this level was just me using the pea shooters alongside the solar peas and some twin sunflowers, but then a bucket head was introduced for the first time in the very middle lane, so I made use of the Golden Yukon, taking it out and beating the 3rd level. And then right after, Dave introduces us to Mo, his personal security robot, who takes us to the plant pass, which to start off is like a tutorial reward map in which we do these tasks, helping us first unlock the cabbage pole and its fusion, the sloth slinger, which is basically like a double cabbage pole. But of course, at the end of this plant pass, we'd unlock the mega gatling pea. And then right after the plant pass, Mo takes us to the almanac, where we get to see all the different zombies alongside all the plant fusions. And you can click on the plants to see all the different fusions that they could merge into. So excited about this, I added cabbage pole to my team and headed right into level 4, which right away throws at us a screen door zombie, but the game does this so that we can use our cabbage pole since it's the direct counter to the screen door in this game. So for the rest of this level, alongside planting cabbage poles, I also fused solar peas in the back, allowing me to take out all the zombies very easily. Beating day 4, Dave then introduced to us the XP system, which in this game you have plant XP and coins, and you can use them to upgrade any plant that you want. But unlike PvZ2, you'll see that the leveling system in this game is actually very much needed, as the later levels get much more difficult and wouldn't be possible with just level 1 plants. Starting day 5, Dave prepared us with the knowledge that a Gargantuar would be coming straight down the middle lane towards the end, and that our best method of attack against it would be the Devastator potato mine. And exactly as David mentioned, the Gargantuar came in. So behind the tall nut in the middle lane, I combined 2 potato mines to make the Devastator. And as the Gargantuar tried to hit the Devastator did its 3x3 attack and took it out, beating level 5. And after completing another challenge in the plant pass, we're introduced to these seed packets. And these seed packets are what you need to unlock any new plant or fusion that you want. Like for example, the biggest evolution of the sunflower, the sun tower needs 80 sunflower seeds to unlock. And with the seed packets I just unlocked, I realized that I could also unlock this guy, the Pine Needler, which is a combination of the pea shooter and spikeweed. And it looked pretty good because it can do more damage than the pea shooter, but also pierce through 2 targets at a time. So I made the decision to use my seed packets to unlock it. But since we had just unlocked the spikeweed as well, the next level started off with the game making me use a spikeweed to go against these 3 imps, but also showing us that when a walnut is damaged or any other plant is damaged, you can use a fusion to basically completely heal it, at the same time making it even more powerful. And I tried using the classic combo of the walnuts and the spikeweeds right by them, but you're going to start noticing that the zombies in this game are no joke, and even in their most basic forms are able to take out very tanky plants. But that aside, I'd also started making fusions of the pine needlers in the back, combining the pea shooter and spikeweed, and these guys were honestly pretty good as they basically carried me all the way to the end, where to deal with the bucket head I combined 2 spikeweeds and it made sort of a better spikeweed that could attack in its adjacent lanes as well. And with the zombie taken out, we beat level 6, and after we unlocked the brain guard from the plant pass, which took us to here, a character customization screen, which first I put my name in and had this funny little glitch as I pressed randomize, in the end choosing to make my character bald with the brain guard and then jumping right into level 7. And this was actually when I realized that mow was also our lawnmower, and that's also a very big difference in the game, the fact that we only get 1 lawnmower. But honestly, I think it's a pretty good addition, as normally the lawnmowers are just very overpowered. But in level 7, I stuck to the strategy of using walnuts and then also pine needlers behind them, which very beautifully took care of all the zombies, and we beat level 7, with Patrice now showing us our house that had a meteor smashed through the roof. And very coincidentally, our next reward in the plant pass was a new roof, so of course I applied it. But you might also notice that there's some plant pots on the ground, but we'll get to those later, as now I had enough coins and XP to upgrade my twin sunflower to level 2. And I forgot to mention in the last level, but these dirt patches are basically areas that you can't plant anything in, and there's no way to fix or heal or grow any grass on top of them, and they stay like that for the entire level. So again, planting around them, I used walnuts and pine needlers alongside the spikeweed evolution because it can actually attack in the dirt pile tiles. And with these defenses, we beat level 8. And here was our introduction to the Zen garden in this game, which is these 4 pots which we can plant any plant that we want in, and once they grow, we can either choose to harvest them, or if we have 2 of the same plant and their evolution unlocked, we can combine them to get that evolution. And as Patrice explains to us here, the evolutions give us 50 coins and 4 seed packets. And if we had chosen to harvest it at the pea shooter stage, the rewards would have been a lot less. And I'm a big believer that if you upgrade the sunflowers, you're basically upgrading everything, because the more sun you can produce faster, the more plants you can get faster. So my main choice of plant to get seed packets for now was the sunflower. But if you happen to get this game, I'd recommend not doing this, as I realized later on that the sunflower is probably not the plant you want to try to upgrade, and there's much better plants. But that was honestly the fun of the game, not knowing anything about it and also trying to figure out the best strategies. Oh yeah, I also took off the roof and applied the meteor one because I feel like it gives it character. And then through the plant pass, we got more seed packets, one of which was the bok choy, the smaller version of bok choy. So of course I unlocked it, but I also had enough to unlock some other plants like this tater pole, which was a combination between the potato mine and the cabbage pole, but it did 250 damage per shot. And that might seem overpowered, but of course we have to take into account the potato mine's pretty long recharge. But that aside, we also had enough seed packets to unlock the bok choy, which takes 2 bok choy to make. And bok choy basically does more damage and also can attack behind itself, unlike the bok choy. And that ability is very important for a zombie later on. And jumping into day 9, I first started by planting my sunflowers, later spamming the potato mine and cabbage pole combo. And with the column of them planted in the very back, our defenses were basically set, but then walked in a gargantuar in the top middle lane. So I quickly combined 2 potato mines to make a devastator, which was able to very easily take out the gargantuar, and we beat level 9. And after beating level 9, we finally had enough points to unlock the Gatling Pea. And to get the Gatling Pea, you have to combine 2 repeaters. And after completing that plant pass, we unlocked this one, which the bottom row is available to us for free, but the top row we have to pay $9.99 for. And at first glance, this might be something that people don't like, because I thought, oh, we have to pay to get the plants that are shown up top. But I later realized that you don't have to buy this to get those plants, and you can just get them by playing normally. This is only so that you unlock them faster, which I think think is a step in the right direction from what PvZ2 was, because in PvZ2 some plants were basically just behind a paywall and there was no way to get them. But in this game you can buy plants earlier, but you can also just unlock them normally, which I think is the perfect way to go about it. It's kind of similar to Clash Royale if you think about it. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this. But for example, I checked the iceweed, which was one of the plants in the plant pass, but you can see that you can unlock it if you get the right seed packets. And the seed packets aren't the most difficult thing to get. There is the Zen Garden, but then there's also daily rewards. So if there's a fusion that you really wanted, you could truthfully get it in about a day or two if you play your cards right. Except for the tier 3s, which might take a couple of extra days, but still not too bad. But with that aside, I took the spikeweed out of my lineup and put in the cabbage pole instead of it. And jumping into level 10, Dr. Zomboss first gives us a riddle talking about what do you get when you combine a gargantuar, a plant-eating snail, and the meteorite shard. And the answer was an escargot, a play on words between the escargot and a gargantuar. And in order to prepare for this boss, I was first planting my sunflowers and walnuts as I was trying to stall, but then I realized that stalling strategies don't really work in this game, and the zombies just end up coming in at the normal pace. And so I quickly started getting down my tater poults. But then came in the abomination, which was the escargot, this ugly looking snail, which as an attack rolls up into a ball and spins towards your closest plant, taking out everything in his path. And also it spits out its slimy goo, which I never really figured out what it did. My best guess is that it just slows all your plants down that are within it. And I'm not gonna lie, the boss itself is pretty easy because it doesn't try to get to the end of the lawn. And when enough damage is dealt to it, it just slithers off the map. I think its main goal is just to distract us so that the other zombies can get to the end. But as it completely failed in its job, we had now beaten level 10 and all the tutorial levels. And now Dave was introducing us to communities, which is basically like a clan in Clash of Clans. And I made my own named Princess Palace, so if you want to join, you can. There's also this cool weekly meter that you get points for by beating the bosses within the game. And as you fill it up throughout the week, you get more and more rewards. So with the tutorial beaten, we're now jumping into Dave's Big Adventure. But you can see that there's still 2 more worlds to come. And Dave's Big Adventure alone has 200 levels in it. And the first 50 levels I would call... And I call it foundations because these first 50 levels are what introduce everything. You get to see every zombie, every map, you unlock all the base plants that are needed for the fusions, and it's where as a new player, you're trying to come up with the best strategy possible. Because obviously there aren't any tutorials on the internet that you can follow, but that's what makes it fun, the feeling of actually having to try. And with some pretty poorly put together defenses, I'd beaten level 1 of Dave's Big Adventure. And right after, we're introduced to the score system of this game, in which you could get a bronze, silver, or gold ribbon. And the higher the ribbon, the better the rewards you got. And for my bronze ribbon, I got 5 gold, 5 iceberg lettuce seeds, and 6 experience points. There was also this daily top scores feature, and it counts your top 5 scores of the day, and you have to try to get the point total to reach that last bar to get that last reward, which gives you even more seed packets. And this is pretty cool because this daily meter guarantees you 20 seed packets of your choice every single day. But that aside, I realized that I really liked the solar pea, so I decided to upgrade it to the highest level that I could, which for now was level 7. And for the time being, I traded out my bok choy for the pea shooter so I could make use of the solar pea, and then traded the cabbage pole for the spikeweed because I felt like the cabbage pole was okay, but it wasn't good enough, and it felt like the pine needler was just better for the moment. Oh, and it also had the light bulb that you see right on the top right corner of the spikeweed, and that means that plant counters one of the zombies you'll be going up against in the level, which in this case was the magma zombie. And I jumped right into level 2 with my solar peas on each of the lanes that the zombies started coming into. And it's kind of funny how your character just stands in the bottom left looking at the map. No chair, no nothing, just standing. But now the magma zombie had come in, and I planted a walnut to try to stall it and a spikeweed right underneath it to deal damage over time. But the walnut was rapidly losing its health, and as it was about to die out, I quickly planted another one on top of it, transforming it into a tall nut and healing it. But just in case that was gonna fail, I did have a devastator right behind it as well. But thankfully my defenses were enough to take out the magma zombie and reveal the imp that was hidden inside. Oh, and I might have phrased it like the magma zombie was kind of a boss of the game, but it's not actually a boss. It's just a normal zombie that's very tanky and kind of hard to get rid of at times. But on the bright side, I obtained 5 more seed packets for the iceberg lettuce, which was enough for me to now unlock it, jumping into level 3 right after. And even though the solar pea was good good at doing attack damage and producing sun, there was a third reason that I actually chose it. And that was due to the reason that your score is dependent on how fast you beat the level. So my idea was, the faster I could get the solar peas down, the faster they do damage and the faster they produce sun. Because at times, it felt like the solar pea was just a better sun producer than the normal sunflowers. Oh, and the magma zombies aren't actually made of magma. They're just melting cheese. Because if you look at the yellow things poking out of it, they're just cheese. I feel like there's a chance that's a reference to Battle for Neighborville because that one map, I think it was called Goopy Goalie. Pretty cool if it is. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, but to progress in the plant pass, there's daily and weekly tasks that you can do. And for a little while, my solar pea strategy was working perfectly, but I knew that I was going to come to a halt when these magma zombies started getting really far. And I was so focused on the top one that I didn't realize that the bottom one broke through my tall nut and was making it to the end of the lawn. And another problem occurred, the zombie in the middle lane ate through my solar pea, and for the first time I was forced to use the lawnmower. But the damage of these two zombies was so good that even though I was planting my walnuts, they would break before I could plant my next one. And for some reason, even though the spikeweed was a counter to the magma zombie was able to melt it down and take it out. And for this reason, I lost for the first time. And honestly, at first, I decided not to use the iceberg lettuce because it had that cost of 25 when normally I'm used to that 0 cost. But seeing how easily those magma zombies got through my defenses, I knew that I was going to need the iceberg lettuce. And on my second attempt, by constantly freezing the magma zombies, the top one had been defeated without any troubles. And the second one was even easier as the iceberg lettuces made it go into a constant state of being frozen. And it barely even made it past that first tile before being taken out and me beating level 4. Oh, and another thing was, you're rarely ever going to get that gold 3 jalapeno ribbon, because to achieve those speeds, you just have to have plants that are much better than the zombies. And at this moment, my plants were sort of equal and they weren't high enough level. And there was another plant that I was interested in, and that was the Zaptail, which seemed like a baby lightning reed. And we do get it, but it comes in a little later on, because for now, I had my eyes on the snow pea. I was truly terrified by the magma zombies because they seemed very powerful, and I realized that the snow pea would be good against them. And it seemed like the magma zombie was in every level, so the snow pea would be good to get. But as I jumped into level 5, the iceberg lettuce was gonna have to be enough for now. Oh, and if you're interested in my opinion on what I think about this game, well, you could probably tell by the title of the video, but I'll go more in depth on that after I beat level 50, because I feel like it's important to show you guys all the different mechanics and all the different things the game has to provide before giving my opinion on it. But for now, I'll mention that the fusions were definitely the best path to go with. And if the cards are played right, the potential for this game seems limitless. But that aside, I spammed twin sunflowers in the back and was making use of the pine needlers because they seem to be the best plant I had so far. And with the use of them, I was able to beat level 5 very easily. And I got 5 seed packets for the iceberg lettuce as well as 5 for the umbrella leaf. And the umbrella leaf is one of the most important plants as some of the levels in the 200 that I play. But you'll see the cluelessness that comes with a new player in a new game, because I was not using the umbrella leaf to its full potential for a lot of the levels that I should have been. But we'll get to that later, and I just wanted to mention it so the people who have played the game don't pull their hairs out while watching me play. But that aside, level 6 had 3 magma zombies on the map at once towards the end of the level. And it wasn't even the magma zombies that were getting far, it was actually the normal zombies. And this was due to the reason that I was so focused on the magma zombies that I was completely neglecting the other ones. But thankfully things worked out as the magma zombies were taken down, and now all that was left was a screen door zombie, which definitely wasn't strong enough to get through the tall net by itself. And after beating level 6, I had enough to unlock this guy, who's called a wintergreens. And it's basically a mega iceberg lettuce that hits in a 3x3 radius. Oh, and I should mention that there's a lot of things that I'm doing behind the scenes, but not saying it in the video. Like for example, tending to my Zen garden and getting the seed packets for my sunflowers. It's kind of difficult to make these kinds of things entertaining. So just know that I am doing all the background stuff, but just not mentioning it in the video. And I was growing those sunflowers just so that I could unlock the sun tower. And one word of advice I can give you if you want the best plants is don't try to go for the sun tower like I did. I mean, it looks cool, but there's definitely better plants. And you'll see who I would have gone for if I had previous knowledge a little later on. And days 7, 8, 9, and 10 didn't really introduce anything too powerful, but on day 10, the zombies in the bottom of the lane got pretty far. And then after taking out this bong choy, made it all the way to the lawn lawnmower. But thankfully I was able to hold back the other zombies, especially with the help of the Gatling Pea in the middle lane. And the Gatling Pea in theory should be good, but it's kind of meh. And the main reason is because it costs 400 sun in total to get one. But that aside, we did beat level 10, unlocking more seed packets for the iceberg lettuce and umbrella leaf. But day 11 was where things got annoying, and it was due to the meteors that would fall down and take out any plant or zombie that was in the tile, also leaving the tile unplantable on for a decent amount of time. And plants like the solar peas that I had in the middle-ish area would just get eradicated by the meteors. But thankfully level 11 in particular didn't have too many strong zombies and were able to take it down. Day 12 had the screen door zombies, so my main defenses were consisted of the cabbage pole and its fusions. There is also this imp in the bottom lane that rolls in on a tire, and it was introduced a while back, but I didn't really mention it as it's not too difficult of a zombie to deal with. And truthfully, I don't really know what its special ability is, as it kind of just dies. Day 13 once again had the meteorites falling down, but also brought back the magma zombie. So of course I brought in the iceberg lettuce to counter it, and there was only one magma zombie sent in this entire level, so it worked out perfectly and we beat level 13. Level 14 was the same mix of zombies, again with the meteorites and the magma zombie, which again were infinitely stalled by the iceberg lettuces. But then a problem occurred where two magma zombies were sent in the bottom lane back to back. But they're just far enough from each other that if I planted an iceberg lettuce to get them, it would only get one of them, leaving one unfrozen. But thankfully by the time my second iceberg lettuce recharged, they were both on top of each other and it froze both of them once more. But I was so focused on the bottom lane that I didn't realize in the top lane a zombie had just eaten the repeater that was defending against it. But right as I was about to reach that last tile, I saw it and planted an iceberg lettuce right in front of it, freezing it, and then I missed this pea shooter placement completely, so I had to resort to the spikeweed instead. But that wasn't enough at all, so I just let the lawnmower take care of it and I tried to focus on the magma zombies, which was eventually taken out by the spikeweed fusion. And afterwards, I'd finally collected enough seed packets for the pea shooter and iceberg lettuce to now unlock the snow pea, which is exactly what I did. I then had a lot of coins and XP saved up, so I upgraded my iceberg lettuce just so I could upgrade the snow pea more, because in order to upgrade fusions, you first have to upgrade the base plants. And I was able to get my snow pea to level 7, and I spent the rest of my coins and XP that I had on upgrading the twin sunflower to level 7 as well. 15 again had meteorites and the magma zombie, but this time I had the snow pea in my arsenal, so they weren't going to be a problem. But the magma zombie actually did end up being a problem because all the zombies came in before it and it was at the end, so the snow pea couldn't really target it, so I did have to use an iceberg lettuce to freeze it. And I could definitely tell that the damage from the snow pea was doing more to the magma zombie than a regular pea shooter was, and we're able to beat level 15. But level 16, we're introduced to probably my least favorite zombie in this entire game, the Nacho Knot Imp. And the Nacho Knot Imp is basically a tanky zombie that can only be hit with the cabbage pole, or specifically by plants that can target flying enemies. But for a long while, our only option is to use the cabbage pole, and the biggest problem is its tankiness, because I thought that the slaw lobber would have been enough since it is a fusion and it shoots 2 cabbages at a time, but it wasn't at all, and the imp actually made it all the way to the lawnmower. But the bigger problem was there was a second imp coming in that bottom middle lane, and I did have the idea to fuse 2 walnuts for a tall nut because the tall nut can block the flying enemies, but very unluckily a meteorite fell right on top of the tall nut, taking it out, leaving a space for the imp to just fly right by, which is exactly what it did, and it made it all the way, taking me out. I did panic a little bit because I was kind of confused on how I was going to reliably be able to take those guys out. So I did try looking for other plants, but there wasn't any that I could unlock. And if you look at the index for the Nacho Nut Imp, the only plant that I have for it is the tall nut, at least the plants that it's weak against. So I had to just press play with the same exact defenses as last time. But this time I was more prepared because even before it came out, I caught the cabbage pulled down and then also a tall nut for it. And the tall nut was the perfect counter because it stalled it for very long, but unfortunately another meteor hit it. But thankfully the tall nut had stalled it long enough that the slaw lobber was able to take it out. But now of course we had to go for that second one, which I thought was going to come into that bottom middle lane, so I made a tall nut there, but then somehow it came into that top middle lane, which made me realize that the positioning of the zombies isn't predetermined. I think that's also a pretty cool feature because it makes it a little more tense and you can't just completely prepare for a zombie. And once again I was able to get another tall nut and a slaw lobber for the jetpack imp, and this time we didn't get unlucky with the meteorites, so we took it out before any problems occurred. And now we only had these 2 zombies in that bottom middle lane, which I could have just let the mower take them, but I wanted to defeat them by myself. And another difference that I hadn't mentioned yet was that iceberg lettuce in this game actually does some damage. So it's actually the plant that got the last hit off on the zombie, allowing us to beat level 16. But seeing that they now become important, I did upgrade the cabbage pole and the slaw lobber each to level 5. And there's another kind of big thing that I haven't mentioned yet, and that's to do with symmetry. Like, you can see that I tried to go for symmetry with my sunflowers, but trying to go for symmetry in this game is nearly impossible. So I'm not gonna lie, for all the people who really like the symmetry, like myself, we kind of have to just forget about it in this game because it's a complete struggle bus if you try to go for it. It's just so fast paced and chaotic that there's no time to even think about the symmetry. Like, this is a level that started off kind of symmetrical, but then ended up like this by the end of the level. A true disaster. Day 18 was the same combo of meteors and the jetpack imps, and we're able to easily defeat it. But then introduced was the zombie that finally makes the bop and bong choy important, which was the volcanoologist zombie. And this guy is basically like the digger zombie from PvZ1. So of course, I took out the cabbage pole and added the bop choy in, and then upgraded the bong choy as much as I could, which was to level 4. And jumping into level 19, I started off with the sunflowers and solar peas, as you can't really predict which lane that the volcanoologist is going to come into. And you can see it digging all the way to the back in that top middle lane. But I was struggling so much with the normal zombies that I couldn't really even do anything to it. And this imp in the bottom middle lane made it all the way, taking me out. For the second attempt, I did trade out my iceberg lettuce for a potato mine, and then as the volcanoologist came into that bottom middle lane, I planted a walnut, but it also gets stunned right as it comes up for some reason, which is nice because it gives us time to prepare for it, which exactly is what I did by planting 2 bop choys to make 1 bong choy that can hit behind itself and hit the volcanoologist. And the bong choy walnut combo was enough just for this one guy. And then a second one came in that very bottom lane, and I had a walnut there, but it got hit with a meteorite, so it was only the bong choy that could do anything to it, and thankfully it was able to take it out before it got eaten by the zombie, allowing me to beat level 19. And we weren't done with the mole rat zombie because it was in level 20 as well. And yes, I am just gonna call it the mole rat zombie because volcanoologist is a mouthful. And level 20 had some devious plans as it sent 2 mole rats at me at once. In the top lane one, I got the defenses down for it immediately, but the bottom one did have that tile with the meteorite that had just struck, so I first planted a bop choy, and then when the tile was safe again, I planted the walnut. And then 5 seconds later, upgrading the bop choy to a bonk choy, and this was enough for both of the mole rat zombies. And with the third mole rat coming into a lane that we already had the defense for it set down, we're able to beat the rest of level 20 without any problems. Level 21, away went the mole rat and came back the magma zombie. So I replaced the bop choy with an iceberg lettuce. And there was another feature added into level 21, which was these dark clouds that you're seeing on the map and the planterns illuminating the light. And the lantern isn't a plant that you get to place down, but the game does it itself. But if you end up losing it to a zombie within the level, it's gone forever. And losing the planterns on this level wouldn't be too devastating because the clouds don't really cover that much, but there are levels later on that cover about half the map, and if you end up losing the plantern, it's literally GG's because you can't see anything. Because if you look at the front of the map, I did lose a plantern and the clouds got very dark. But a good thing is that even if the clouds are up, the plants can still shoot the zombies walking through them. So they aren't really a hindrance to your plants, but they're more of a hindrance to your vision. And most of this level was taken care by the solar peas, but I did get a gallant pea in the very back for the magma zombie that had come in. And with these defenses, we easily beat level 21. 22 was basically the same as 21, and then level 23 brought back the jetpack imp, but also this bowler zombie that I haven't really mentioned because it's not a big threat. And by its description, it seems like it does a lot of damage, but I didn't really notice it literally throughout this entire challenge. It truthfully felt like even though the bowlers are supposed to be a special zombie, they were easier than even the normal zombies. But the main threat was of course the jetpack imp, who I barely stalled in that second to last tile with the tall nut and then a slaw lobber right behind it. But then the second one came in that top middle lane, so I quickly got a tall nut down there as well. And with those two handled and only a cone head left, level 23 was beaten. 24, we once again saw the mole rat zombie, but thankfully only one was sent and it was in the very final wave, so I got down my walnut and bonk choy, quickly taking it out and beating level 24. Level 25, again the mole rat zombies, and the first one was in the middle lane with the second one being in the bottom middle lane, both very easily dealt with. Day 27 wasn't anything new or special, but I did add the use of a devastator for the magma zombies. But you can see that the magma zombies are very tanky because even the devastator wasn't able to take it out in one hit, even though the magma zombie had been damaged a good amount. But still, the damage was good enough that we easily beat day 27. And day 28 had the jetpack imps and magma zombie, but it was literally only one of each, and I did fail with the placement of a tall nut in that top lane for the jetpack imp, but thankfully I had 2 damage dealers and they were able to handle him by himself. And the magma zombie of course was hard countered by the iceberg lettuce, and level 28 was defeated. And a cool little side note, by the time I'd beaten level 28, we had gotten our first member in the Princess Palace named Autumn. And there's a good chance she doesn't even watch the channel, but shout out Autumn. And I know I already mentioned it, but if you want to join, it's first come first serve, and at least for the beta I won't really be kicking anyone since we're all just trying to have fun. But when the official release does come out, I will be a little more active in kicking out inactive people. But jumping into level 29, which actually brought a little bit of a different combo of special zombies with the magma zombie and also the mole rat zombie. But once again, it was literally one of each and they were both taken out very easily. And with the last zombie in that very top lane going out, level 29 was beaten. But level 30 was once again where we see the escargot. And that's due to the reason that this will be the last level that we see this map for a while, as there will be a change of setting after this level alongside some new plants. And here comes the escargot. And as I mentioned way earlier, it's not very much of a threat, as all it does is just stay in the back and then leave the map when you take its shell out. And the rest of the zombies weren't difficult either, as they're all just normal ones. And level 30 was beat, and we actually got some tangle kelp seed packets, which from doing the challenge became one of my favorite plants in the game. And I'll explain why when we begin to use it. But as you can see, we're now being introduced to water, and the description says that all water plants are stronger in the water, but if you plant a non-water plant, it'll cost you extra sun. So for the very first water level, I majorly avoided the water because I didn't really know how much extra sun that it was going to cost. And also for now, the tiles were pretty lenient, with half of the map still being a land tile. And heavily making use of the pine needler, I was able to defeat all the zombies and get through level 31 pretty easily, which gave me 5 more tangle kelp seed packets and allowed me to unlock it. And looking at his stats, you can see that it does 800 damage to the zombies that are in the water, but if planted on land, it has a stun that lasts for 10 seconds, which becomes very useful for a pretty threatening zombie that comes in. And the tangle kelp actually gets even better with this fusion being wrangle kelp. And the wrangle kelp is basically a tangle kelp that acts in a 3x3 radius, but can also either take down or stun 3 zombies. And even better, when it loses all 3 of its limbs, it spawns another tangle kelp right underneath it. And level 32, we're being introduced to a new zombie which goes by the lumberjack zombie, and it's basically a tanky zombie that deals damage to plants in its lane and the plants in the adjacent lanes. And in theory, the lumberjack sounds pretty dangerous, but it's completely countered by the tangle kelp and is high damage. And a pretty crazy thing about tangle kelp is that even though it's really good, its recharge is also the same as a sunflower, so you can basically just spam them across the map whenever you need. And I think it's a pretty good trade-off from making it a non-insta-kill plant and giving it just high damage, but also reducing its recharge to 5 seconds. It just makes it more versatile. Of course, with the addition that you can plant it on land now as well. Level 33, I brought in the same exact lineup as the zombies hadn't really changed. And that's also a pretty cool feature about this game, that you have to change your lineup every few levels. The different zombies and the different weaknesses they have basically just force you to use different plants. Because if you try to just use the same lineup and power through every level, it's basically impossible. Well, kinda, because there is a plant that we unlock closer to level 50 that basically becomes a necessity in every single level, but you'll see it when we get there. Level 34, same lineup, same zombies, and the same outcome with an easy clear. But level 35 introduces a new zombie, the canoe zombie, which is another zombie like the flyers that make you use the cabbage pull, because otherwise the other plants do a lot less damage. And this is due to the reason that the projectiles are blocked by the canoe from reaching the zombie. And another feature of the canoe zombie is that it's pretty slow on land, but when it gets to water, it speeds up a pretty good amount. So your best bet is to either place a walnut or something else that's tanky and just try to keep it on land. But then comes in another problem with the canoe zombie, and it's the fact that the canoe just stays there when the zombie is taken out. And you can see that the zombies on this level completely overwhelmed me. And I was even trying until the very end, placing a tangle kelp in that very top lane, even though I knew I was going to lose and the imp took me out. And the main reason I lost that level was because the only damage dealer, or at least consistent damage dealer I had, was the cabbage pole. And truthfully, it's just not good enough by itself. So I made the decision of taking out my potato mine and replacing it with the pea shooter just so I had more damage dealers. And this was actually working out much better because the normal zombies were quickly being taken out by the solar peas, which allowed me to focus the canoe zombies with the tangle kelps and the cabbage poles, which led to most of the zombies being taken out pretty easily, except for these ones in this bottom middle lane, who actually got through all my defenses and made made it to the lawnmower, but those were the last zombies and we beat level 35. And this actually gave me 5 seed packets for the Zap Tail. And I didn't really show y'all, but I'd collected my daily meter reward and gotten 8 Zap Tail seed packets, which of course allowed me to unlock it. And this was a plant that I was really excited about, so I leveled it up all the way to level 5. And I hadn't really been using the spike weed, so I switched it out for the Zap Tail. And you might have noticed, but the cost of the Zap Tail is only 40 sun, making it the cheapest consistent attacker. But I'm not gonna lie to y'all, as the level started and I planted a Zap Tail to beat the imp that was first sent in, I was heavily disappointed because I literally had to use a walnut to beat the imp. And even then the walnut almost got completely eaten, so I had to make it a tall nut. I had realized that the Zap Tail is actually kind of poopy, and I tried switching over to other attackers like the cabbage pole, but the damage was already done and I'd planted too many Zap Tails. And of course we don't have a shovel, so I can't get rid of them, and I can't fuse them into anything since I haven't unlocked any fusions for them. And my fears had crept up as the zombies ate through all my defenses and took me out. So I quickly abandoned the Zap Tail for now and waited until I could get the electric reed fusion for it, and the pea shooter was gonna have to carry for now. And with the help of some slaw lobbers, this actually was much easier than the last attempt, and we beat level 36 no problem. Even level 37 was pretty easy, and we ended this level off with maybe the nicest placements that I have in this entire challenge. I mean, it's not completely symmetrical, but the colors kind of line up. And afterwards we got 5 seed packets each for the Tangle Kelp and the Zap Tail, which meant that we could finally unlock the Wrangle Kelp. And instantly I used all my XP and leveled up the Wrangle Kelp to level 5. And it was good that I did, because level 38, basically all the land tiles were taken out and most were just water now. But placing Wrangle Kelps in the top middle lane and bottom middle lane, you can control the flow of zombies pretty well. And this is due to the reason that even though the zombies in this game are pretty strong, there aren't too many of them. And a high damage dealer that can take out 3 zombies each, like the Wrangle Kelp, is actually very useful. But the Wrangle Kelp actually does have one bad thing about it, and it's when it tries to pull in tankier zombies, it doesn't completely take them out, and then the tanky zombie just ends up defeating the Wrangle Kelp, which is actually a pretty big hindrance for the Wrangle Kelp, but it's still overpowered enough that this isn't too big of a deal. And this was also the first level that we had to plant a land plant on the water, and you can see with that walnut that I just planted that what it meant by extra cost was the fact that it adds a lily pad under the plant, which costs 50 sun, which honestly is a very hefty amount, but in some situations it is worth it. Like this one, where I planted a couple of extra attackers to take out the lumberjack and beat the level. Level 39 brought a combination of both canoe zombies and lumberjack zombies, but thankfully the map was very nice to us and we had a lot of land tiles to work with. So spamming some Tangle Kelps alongside pea shooters and cabbage pults, we beat level 39. 40 was the same lineup of zombies, but this time most of the map was water tiles. And due to this, 2 canoe zombies got pretty far in that top middle lane and ended up taking my lawnmower. But this left us with only a few zombies in the bottom 3 lanes who were actually able to take out pretty easily, beating level 40. And this left us only 2 seed packets away from being able to unlock the lightning reed. So I jumped straight into level 41, not realizing there's actually a new zombie introduced in this level as well. Or I should say a group of zombies, because there was this line of imps in the bottom lane. And I'm pretty sure the main counter to these guys is supposed to be the Zap Tail, but as I didn't bring it in, I had to make do with what I had and used some Gatling peas, a repeater, and a cabbage pole to take them out. And just like that, level 41 had been conquered. But most importantly, we got the final 2 seed packets that we needed for lightning reed. So I quickly went over and unlocked it. But I had recently just spent up all my XP points, so I didn't have much to work with and was only able to level it to level 3. And the imp zombie that we faced is actually called a Z-Scout camper, and I'll probably just call them camper imps. But with the addition of lightning reed, I quickly took out the cabbage pole and added the Zap Tail back on the team. And I knew that the lightning reed was going to be perfect for my permanent setup as I combined 2 Zap Tails, and this time the lightning reed was able to take out the imp without any extra support. And the difference between the Zap Tail and the lightning reed is that the Zap Tail can only target in its lane, but the lightning reed can target its adjacent lanes as well. And before getting the lightning reed, I probably would have said that the pea shooter is the best consistent attacker that you can have, but after just having lightning reed for 1 level, I was convinced that it's much better than the pea shooter. And even though it technically only deals half the damage of a pea shooter, that only applies when it's attacking 1 zombie, because if the lightning even arcs to a second zombie, it automatically is dealing more damage than the pea shooter. And what's even better is that it can hit its adjacent lanes. But the most important thing in my opinion is that the cost of the Zap Tail is crazy cheap. A full Lightning Reed literally only takes 80 sun to get, compared to the Pea Shooter's 100 sun cost. And that's not the only thing that makes the Lightning Reed the best attacker in my opinion. There's actually 2 more reasons, but I'll mention those when they're relevant. And with the help of Lightning Reed, level 42 was one of the levels we got very close to Symmetry. And I also attained the highest score that I've attained so far in this game. But okay, the first reason of the 2 that the Lightning Reed is much better than the Pea Shooter is that they completely ignore the canoe of the canoe zombie. So the canoe's shield-like effect doesn't really do anything and it's kind of pointless in the face of Lightning Reed. But okay, Lightning Reed glaze aside, we're now on level 44. And this is a special level for the water world because it introduces its Gargantuar. And for some reason, the Lightning Reed is actually the counter to the Gargantuar, and it says the reason is due to that rod that the Gargantuar carries. I think it either conducts the electricity better, hitting more zombies, or it could just do more damage. I never actually figured out the true reason, but I'm not gonna lie, the Lightning Reed isn't really that much of a counter to the Gargantuar. It just takes too long to take the Gargantuar down. In my opinion, calling either the Tangle Kelp or the Iceberg Lettuce the counter would have been more fitting, as their stalling is very important against the Gargantuar, and without it, it's basically impossible to take down the Gargantuar. And looking at the tier 3s, the Lightning Reed also had a third form called the Punk Shocker, and I really wanted it, but sadly I couldn't collect enough seed packets by the end of the challenge. I actually ended up getting it after beating all 200 levels. So let me know if you guys would want to see another challenge like using only Lightning Reeds or just Zap Tail fusions. I think that could be pretty cool. Oh, and the low cost for Zap Tail is very important in levels like these where the map gives us very few tiles to plant our sunflowers in. I mean, you could plant your sunflowers kind of far front, but those will usually just get taken out instantly. So in my opinion, it's best to just keep your sun producers in the back. Another cool thing was that the extra 50 sun cost only happens when you plant like your first Zap Tail, for example, but when you go to fuse another Zap Tail into the Lightning Reed, it doesn't cost that extra 50 sun, since the lily pad is technically already there. And using Lightning Reed spam and Iceberg Lettuces to stall out this last Gargantuar, we beat level 45. And a little fun fact, level 44 is the last level that you get any seed packets in, because after 45 I only got coins and experience, which has been happening a lot in a lot of the levels that I played, but then once in a while there would be a level that gave me seed packets. But after going through all 200 levels, I can confirm that level 44 is the last level that has any seed packets in. And I thought, oh, maybe you could just replay the level and get the seed packets again and maybe farm them that way. But that is not how it worked, and this time I only got experience. And truthfully, I can't be too mad at it because PopCap does allow you to get all the basic plants with their help, but now of course it just depends on you and your everyday grinding to get the seed packets for the rest of the fusions. 46 was easily defeated with Lightning Reed spam, and levels 47, 48, 49, and lastly 50 were all the same exact way. And I had mentioned that after level 50 that I would be giving you guys my thoughts on this game, since at this point I've introduced you guys to almost everything that the game has to offer, with an exception of a couple things that I do mention later on as well. But back to the point, and there's a good chance you guys already realized this by the way I was talking about the game and also of course the title, and honestly I think the game is amazing. I feel like going with the fusion pathway is one of the best decisions that PopCap could have made, and I feel like the way they did it was very good as well. I also really like the leveling system and how you basically need to level your plants in this game to actually defeat it. You know, it gives a purpose to the leveling system, unlike in PvZ2 where it just feels empty. Of course, unless you're doing the one plant challenges like I do. There is one thing that I would prefer different in the game, and it's that I feel like the levels just go by too quickly. And what I mean by this is that if I had any other tier 3 fusions besides the Gatling Pea, I would only be able to get 1 or 2 down per level. Like I wouldn't really ever get the satisfaction of getting a full column of tier 3 plants because the level just goes by too fast. But truthfully, I can't complain about this too much because I feel like I do understand the reasoning behind this, and it's that so the game can appeal to newer audiences, since I'm pretty sure that people as a whole are starting to have shorter attention spans. And yeah, that's basically the only thing that I would like different in the game, but I don't really mind it that much. But aside from that, I think the most important thing about the game is the potential. Like the idea of fusions holds nearly infinite potential, and I thought the new zombies like the magma zombie, the jetpack imp, the canoe zombie, the lumberjack zombie, the escargot even, I thought they're all very cool ideas, and there's nothing stopping PopCap from just adding more even cooler zombies. But there's a third thing that I think holds a lot of potential, and that's the community slash clan system. Like if PopCap added some big bosses that you as a community could take down together, like something similar to Garden Warfare 2, where the whole player base worked towards one goal in the weekly events. But in this game, of course, it would be that 24 people community that you create. But something that would be even cooler in my opinion would be if PopCap can create a community versus community game mode. Like for example, Clash of Clans has the Clan Wars. I don't really have any ideas of what it would be, but I think it'd be pretty cool. I think the microtransactions that they chose to include in the beta were alright as well. Like you can buy them and they would give you a boost, but they're not really needed and you can just get everything by playing normally. I think that's the perfect way to go about it. Because in PvZ2, it definitely was annoying when there were some plants that you couldn't unlock because they cost $5. And that's all I really have to say about the game as a whole. I just believe that if PopCap plays its cards right, this could be one of the better PvZ games. So opinions about the game aside, now let's get back to completing the rest of the 150 levels. And like I mentioned earlier, you guys have basically already seen everything that the game had to offer, besides of course the fusion plants that I couldn't unlock. And the next 150 levels is basically me just using the same lightning reed spam strategy. And I say that the next 150 levels are repetitive, but they're only repetitive due to myself and not the game. And that's because I beat the entire 200 levels in 2 days. And I don't think as a person you're supposed to play the game like that. I believe the true point is just playing the game 10 to 20 levels a day and then unlocking new fusions almost every day and trying them out, which of course would keep the rest of the campaign somewhat refreshing. But as I beat the game too fast and I couldn't unlock any new fusions and the lightning reed was my best strategy, this is basically all I did. And from this point forward, what I'll basically be doing is just skimming over most of the levels and only stopping and explaining the ones that have some important things in them. Like for example, levels 55 through 64 were all the same exact thing with me just spamming lightning reeds and tangle kelps. But after level 64, I decided that I wanted to get this last reward in the daily meter, as I only had an hour and 29 more minutes to get it. So I went back to the very first level, and now with my overpower strategy, I scored a 2167 score. And doing the same in other levels, I unlocked the last briefcase, and in hopes of getting the punk shocker, I chose the zap tail seed packets. And once again, levels 65 through 69 were all water levels with the same lightning reed and tangle kelp spam. Level 70 was actually the exact same as well, but I chose to stop here because this is the last level of the water world for a while, because now after this we'll be going back to the magma world. And I will say with my experience, the water world is definitely much easier than the magma world. And I think the main reason for this is because the tangle kelp is extremely overpowered in the water, and taking it to the magma world doesn't hit the same. And the magma world also has those jetpack imps that become extremely annoying. And this is some extreme foreshadowing, but level 150 was diabolical. But you'll see why when we get there. As now with taking this last zombie out, level 70 had been beat. Level 71, I traded out the tangle kelp for the pea shooter, and this was so that I could make use of the snow pea once more. And also because tangle kelp loses its ability to do any damage and basically is just a stunning plant on land levels. And my defenses were enough to beat level 71 on the very first attempt. And skipping straight to level 79, I made the discovery of a lifetime. And that was that the umbrella leaf's main function in this game is supposed to be blocking the meteorites that fall down. And up until this point, I truly thought that the umbrella leaf was completely useless. But when I learned this, it became one of the most important plants in my arsenal. And this is only one of its uses because its second use is as a wall plant, because it almost has the same health as the walnut does. The only big difference is that the walnut fuses into the tall nut, which can block the flying enemies, while the umbrella leaf's fusion can't do that. But that aside, we beat level 79 very easily. But level 80 has the worst combination of special zombies, with one being the jetpack imps and the second one being the mole rat zombie. And this combo is very detrimental because the mole rat zombie forces us to bring in the bok choy, which basically meant that I had to choose between iceberg lettuce and walnut. And of course, the main problem was with this setup, I didn't really have a defensive plant that could stop the jetpack imp. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention the second reason that makes the lightning reed really good, and that's the fact that I can hit flying enemies like the jetpack imp. But even though the damaging is possible, it's still very low and can't take it out usually without the help of a tall nut. And the jetpack imp can be really annoying because it stuns the zombies with its attack. And this jetpack imp in the bottom middle lane made it all the way to the end, taking me out on my very first attempt of level 80. On my second attempt, I decided to take out the umbrella leaf and put in the walnut for it, and even though without the umbrella leaf, the meteorites were a little dangerous to my plants, we were still able to trudge through this level and beat the jetpack imps with the help of the tall nut. And we somehow didn't even lose the lawnmower. Level 82, I brought back the Tangle Kelp because I thought its stuns would be good against the magma zombie, and they were. Jumping to level 88 had another pretty challenging aspect of the levels, and if you remembered, I'd mentioned that losing the plant turns in the later levels can be very detrimental. And I was mainly talking about this level where I lost both of my plant turns and basically half of the map was covered with the fog. And this led to me being very confused on what was going on, and due to the fog, I didn't notice the zombie in the very bottom lane, which due to this reason made it all the way through and took me out. On the second attempt, however, I did protect the plant turns with my life, which made the levels much easier and we're able to beat the level without even losing the lawnmower. And skipping right to before level 100, where once again we're gonna see the escargot, there is another feature that I haven't mentioned yet, which was these hazards. And the hazards are basically a feature that make the zombies faster, stronger, and have more health. And it seemed like every 10 to 20 levels, the percentages on these hazards would go up a little bit. And the main reason I hadn't mentioned these earlier was because they weren't a big problem, but it started to get to the point where my zap tail / lightning reed's damage wasn't good enough for the zombies and it would take a lot more to defeat them. Of course, the lightning reed was still the best option I had, so I continued using it. And once again, the boss levels that contain the escargot are for some reason the easiest levels in the game. I don't know why this is really the case, but not once did I have a problem with them. And after level 100 was beaten, we once again transitioned to the water levels. But we're skipping straight to level 130, which was the last world of the water in this section. And this is mainly again due to the reason that no new zombies were introduced and I didn't use any new plants either. It's basically all just lightning reed and tangle kelp spam. And I didn't lose in any of the levels either because this combo with the lightning reeds and the tangle kelp is just overpowered in the water worlds. Like for example, literally on the transition level, I got the golden ribbon. It should have been much more difficult to get that. But my complaints about difficulty definitely caught up to me on level 50 of this adventure. And as I'd mentioned earlier, it was due to the devious combo of the jetpack imp and the mole rat zombie. But the problem wasn't the mole rat. It was actually just the insane amount of jetpack imp zombies that the game kept on sending in this level. And before I could even get my defenses down, the game was sending zombies in every lane, which I did not have the capabilities to deal with. So attempt after attempt after attempt after attempt, I kept on failing. On this try, I even decided to just give up on my own because I knew I wasn't going to win. But this led to a mass leveling up of a lot of plants that I'd neglected, like the walnut, tall nut, bok choy, bonk choy, umbrella leaf, and lastly the jumbrella leaf, which is just a fusion of two smaller umbrella leaves. And even this, though it seemed like a good move, wasn't enough to defeat this level due to the reason that my defensive capabilities had increased, but my offensive capabilities against the jetpack imps remained the same. I even tried different strategies like the solar pea and the cabbage pults, but these were just too costly and much worse than the lightning reeds. And the lightning reeds did just seem like my best strategy, but there was one big change that finally gave me a winning strategy, and that was replacing the bok choy with the iceberg lettuce. I'd realized that though the mole rat zombies are a problem, they weren't the main threat, as their function doesn't really allow them to defeat you. Their only purpose is just taking out your plants, and they're not really even good at doing that. They're so slow that by the time they get past the tiles, you can just start planting new offensive plants behind them. And switching to the iceberg lettuce was important because a lot of the regular zombies were becoming big threats as well. And this was mainly due to the reason that I was so focused on the jetpack imps that the regular zombies were getting through a lot of the time. But the iceberg lettuce made it to where I could freeze the regular zombies and spend more time on the jetpack imps, which is why after a full hour of horrendous attempts, I was finally able to conquer level 150, which for me was the hardest level in the game. And after level 150, I kind of realized the best counters for all the different zombies, and none of them were really able to defeat me anymore. So there's not much else I can really say besides level 170 again was a transition level into the water levels. And like I mentioned a few minutes earlier, the water levels are just too easy for the lightning reed and tangle kelp strategy. And at this point, I'd basically resorted to just speedrunning the game. I was actually so confident in my abilities that I even started using the speed up button, which for most of this run was a very rare occurrence because the normal speed of the game is very fast as it is. And here we were were, level 200, the last level of Dave's Big Adventure. And this actually was the first level that we get to see the escargot on a water map. I mean, like always, it was a level that was too easy for a boss level, and I even achieved the golden ribbon on it on my very first attempt. And so far, that was basically it. And now it's basically just time to wait for the other 2 chapters to come out. I have no idea if they'll come within the beta or after the official release, but whichever it is, I'm excited to see the future of this game. And let me know if there's anything else you'd like me to try within the game, whether it be some one plant only challenges or anything else. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Okay, that's enough yap from me. Bye bye.